All right, so we're going to talk about kind of our Conservation Desktop 2.2, just a follow-up review. I plan on having these webinars, I don't know, every 3 weeks or so, just to kind of keep everyone up to date and keep the questions coming. I know a lot of people ask questions just as they come, but I just wanted to make sure there's that opportunity. So as everyone knows, here's what we're going to cover today. You've seen that in the calendar invite. And then we also we'll go through guidance documents and then setting up the favorite for CD environments. I know I covered that very, very quickly in our hands-on trainings. I just wanted to make sure everyone could do that and set it up the right way. And then also want to know just how you're using it and what issues or questions you might have today. Is everybody seeing my screen? I wanted to make sure we're seeing the PowerPoint.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you. First off, I wanted to mention the Desktop Cadre team members. They're listed there. If you have any questions and you can't get a hold of myself or Jerry, or if you want to ask them first, go ahead and talk to them. They'll help you set it up. They're very knowledgeable in what is going on with desktop and also with toolkit issues right now. So let them know. They'll be able to help you kind of work through some things maybe prior to getting to me. If they're not available, obviously just go ahead and contact myself or Jerry, and we can go ahead and troubleshoot the issue or help you with whatever question you might have. All right, so now I'm going to dive into the demo for today. I'm going to start off by just going on how to even access Conservation Desktop. For some of the field staff watching, we won't be knowing how to get to it. So the basic way to get to the SharePoint would just be to Google NRCS Idaho. Once we get our search results back, we can click on the link. Pulls us into Idaho. Obviously, if you know how to get into SharePoint, you can do this without going through these steps. But here on the topics and then people and then NRCS employees, we can select that and it will pop up all of the links that are kind of some important links for NRCS employees. We've got Concur, AgLearn, Conservation Desktop production link is right there, but I'm gonna take us first to the SharePoint. We can click on the NRCS SharePoint. This goes to Idaho. I guess I gotta click one more time. If you haven't favorited this page, I would definitely favorite this page. Log in with your email, your USDA email if you're a partner. Your USDA email is going to be the only one that I think that'll work. You can try with your other one, but it just depends on your access. So this is the Idaho SharePoint. I'm going to come over here to the left and click on Tech Services. And then in the Tech Services SharePoint, I'm going to come to the training library. On this training library, there's resources for every category in Tech Services. As I scroll down, I've actually moved Conservation Desktop up because Conservation Desktop it's all sorted alphabetically, so I decided to move Conservation Desktop in there to make it higher. Down here in this bottom, I'm just going to continue to build our Idaho 2.2 teleconferences. The recording from today is going to be posted here in this spot on a Word document where you can go and click on that to watch those past recordings. These are just some of the guidance documents that we've been using. The PDF version of our lesson plans is here. You can download that. It's searchable, and I believe that it's hot linked as well, so if you want to go to one section or the other, it'll link. This is the Idaho packet. It has the agenda, some of the items in there. This is the participant checklist that we use to use prior to attending the 2.2 trainings. And then the YouTube trainings as well. These are very useful. This link takes you to the sites or the trainings from NHQ that they had provided for everyone going to the Train the Trainer for 2.2. If you're having issues on an area in Conservation Desktop, want to make sure you're doing it right, the YouTube videos are very easy. If you they follow the manual and go from there. First off, I'm going to go into the training version just because I don't want to mess up something in production, but here's the production version as well right here. So I'm going to go in, we'll go into the training version. I should have opened a new tab, but whatever. I'm going to talk about Conservation Desktop a little bit. There's a little bit of new terminology that we use in roles, and just this a little different. In Toolkit we would use customer, and in Desktop we're now using client. Those are the same translation now. In Toolkit we had customer folder, now we have a case file, and cases is how we refer to those. In Toolkit we had a plan or a cons plan, we now have a schedule or a practice schedule. This is all on page 9 of the manual, and if you don't have a manual, just send me an email, let me know, and I can either mail you one or we can get you a manual from the area office. Area office has a little stack. But if you need if you want a manual, a hard copy yourself, I'd go ahead and get that. On page 10 of the manual, it gives a workflow showing all of the information, what can be done in what's being done in ProTrack's Conservation Toolkit or Desktop, and then also Toolkit right now. So it's kind of a nice opportunity to kind of see where we're at, see the kind of limitations that Desktop still has right now. So that's kind of lesson plan 2. I would say go ahead and look at those yourself and read those if you'd like. On lesson plan 3, kind of goes through setting up preferences and logging into the training site. So this is going to be the same in the production site, and I want to encourage all of you to go into the production site and set your preferences and have those ready to go for when you do want to use the production version and start working in Conservation Desktop. But to get to the preferences, you go up here and click on your initials, and you open up the preferences dialog. This opens up a new page. It comes to the Service Center Management area. Any permissions that you have for service centers will show up here. If nothing shows up or not all of them show up, you want to click on this drop down and re-click on Idaho to re-get those, or maybe if you have some Washington or Wyoming, you may want to refresh that and make sure you get all of the service centers you want. Here you can select your default service center. This is going to default in your searches, in just a lot of what we do in our conservation products and making a conservation plan. So set your default. You only have one default, but obviously you can type a new one in there if you need. You can sort these alphabetically. The same with the counties over here as well. I won't show you that. Once you have your preferences in, you'll click Save and then Close. And then you can go down to the next preference set. So here's where you can set your different land uses. So some of these I honestly don't even know why we have them in here because we don't really work on them, but you can select which ones you need, which ones you want, and save it and then close. Same with the programs. We're going to have a ton of programs. This comes into effect with our programs as we attribute our practices, which program we tie it to. So you want to make whichever practices you want available, then click Save, and then close once our preferences have been updated. Okay, and then we go down here to servicing. Oh, I forgot practices. Let's go to practices. So practices, select which available practices you want. This is already sorted for or filtered out for Idaho what practices are eligible. You can filter, or not filter, but you can sort the codes or by the names, whichever you would like to use. I wouldn't spend a ton of time on this necessarily. I would probably select all, but if you want to go through and say I never do a forest management plan down in the south, okay, you can go ahead and check that off. And you don't have to see that come through on your preferences. Once you get there, you will save and then close it. I didn't make any changes, so there's no need for me to save. In our servicing office, you automatically will get your default to come in here. Right now I have Moscow Service Center, and Chris Johnson's name automatically comes in as a designated conservationist. You can come out here and change this to whichever name it needs to be. If there is a change that needs to be done, let me know and we'll get that updated in the OIP database so that this, I'm just going to leave my name for now. The certified planner box is selectable. This is only available for those who have certified planner roles in whichever environment you're in. So in the training environment, you might have a certified planner role, but in the production environment, you might just have planning support, so your name may not show up here until you are a certified planner. If there needs to be a correction or anything like that, please let me know and we can get that updated here. All of this information, if it changes, please let us know, but it is updated through the OIP database and it should be up to date. Okay, save it and then close. And then we can come and set our conservation district. So as you can see, I have a gazillion conservation districts available because I have the entire state. So make your one default, and then when you go into the conservation products, you will be able to go in there and change which conservation district you want to use. But go ahead and save and close. When you get done in preferences, I'm not going to cover tasks because we're not really dealing with that right now. When you get done with preferences, you can come up here and click Close Panel, and it will return you back to your default Service Center area, and then you should be set to go. Okay, in this next lesson plan and lesson plan 4, we're going to go over case file and agreement search. If there are any questions, just go ahead and cut me off. Is there a question right now? Okay, I'll keep going then. So as you see, as I hover over these buttons, they do live look up or live tell me what they're doing. So that is nice. I'm going to go in this lesson plan 4. We look at all the existing case files. So that's using that magnifying glass. As you can see, it defaulted to Moscow Service Center because that's my default. I'm going to change it to Twin Falls because I have an example file there that I want to use. You can search by case name, client name, application number if it's linked in ProTracks to that application number, contract number or easement number, tract. You can filter it by conservation records or easement records. And then we'll click search and we'll see. Hoping this is where it is. Yeah, so case file panel example. This is the one I'm going to come into. I should have showed you this. I'll show you in a later version, but you can click on the action icon as well to either open that case or you can click on the hot link. I clicked on the hot link because that's just naturally what I do. When you click on that hot link and select that case file, it automatically loads information over here to your table of contents. So I'm going to go over this table of contents a little. When you have this Arlene J. Smith is our client, okay? So this is our customer, if you would say, in Toolkit. Here's where you can create a case from here. You can manage cases if there's multiple cases or multiple folders. You can manage those here. And the other information here as well. This is the case file panel. I just named it case file panel just so everyone can see what it is. Here's if you would like to rename that case, I'll click on there. We can name it whatever we want to name that. We talked in our trainings about getting somewhat of a standard for what we would want to put there. I haven't quite determined what we want to do with that yet, if we really want to do that or not. But you can rename it. You can open your practice schedule. If you have a practice schedule and only one practice schedule tied to this case, it will automatically open that one. If you have multiple practice schedules or multiple conservation plans, you will have to go in there and open and tell Conservation Desktop which one to open. So that's where you would use this Open Practice Schedule button. We're going to talk about these later, and we kind of covered that, and I don't want to get too deep in here for this teleconference today. But this is then the next panel would be your practice schedule panel. You can go through that information here. Those are the options that are available to you. So now let me go back to that search. I'm going to show just a few. Let me go back down to Twin Falls. You can also hit enter. You don't have to hit the search button on this. I like that. It's going to show that I have this used and I'm using it right now. If by chance you have a toolkit folder checked out, it's going to put a lock button and then a TK where there's that CD. Same as if it is in ProTrax modification through production in the production environment, it would have a lock and then PT. So it's consistent to how we see toolkit today. You can filter this by who it's locked by. You can filter it by the case file name. You can filter it by the client, depending on, usually you would filter that out. If they have applications and contracts, you can also filter that out by what fiscal year, what program. This find feature is going to be really nice, I think, when looking at that. Let's see if there's anything else I want to cover here. Like I said, you can either click on the case file name, or you can click on the actions icon here. We can release the case lock, view the practice schedule is tied to this, or open the case. So I'll just release this case lock. I actually haven't pushed that button. But what it will do is it will take it out, take that case file out, and it's just made it a read-only copy, as well as release that lock here. So then I could click on that hyperlink again and it will open that up. All right, so lesson plan 5 goes over the interface and setting up the map preferences. So we set up our preferences kind of like our toolkit, basic preferences, practices, service center, that kind of management stuff. Now we're going to go to our map. So if you're in a current case file, you're going to open up to the land unit, to that practice schedule, and it'll zoom automatically there. I'm just going to show you a few controls over here. This home button will bring you back home or bring you back to that default zoom over there on that left. This is your map tools toolbar, and then this over here is your map content. Before we go to map content, I want to go, many of you will maybe go into the production environment and not have any layers available even in your background. As you can see, there's like all of a sudden there's no base maps. First off, we need to go to layer preferences. Okay, we have to make these layers available. The features, I left them the same. You may need to turn those on or off. I believe that it defaults in this order already, but if you want to have your lines show on top of your points, you can click and drag to bring those there. You can also hit the identify little button here, and it will give you an information of what that layer is. Same here on the reference. We got the identify button. We can drag it, put whatever layer we want on top. I'm going to go ahead and make these available. We'll leave those imageries off. And then I don't need to make them invisible, but if you have a layer that you use every single time you go into Conservation Desktop, you can make it visible. I found that it kind of slows down Conservation Desktop when we have multiple layers just being drawn on top of each other. So I like to go in there and turn them on myself. This is where the base map background information will be, so you can put your topo. If you want your topo to be your default, personally I like the world imagery or the USDA NAIP. We'll change it to USDA NAIP. When you hit save, it's going to save these preferences. You're only going to have to do this the first time or whenever you want to make a change to how those preferences, your layers show up. Conservation Desktop will then refresh, and it changed my layer background. I don't know, it kind of is hard to tell that background had been changed. But in that map contents, now all of a sudden we have those layers available. So we can come in here, turn on whichever layer we may want. If we want to see the county, the service center area, whichever. If you want to change your base map, you could change your base map to this Nape Hill shade or whatever you may want, or the world street map. Okay, so there's lots of different options there. Whatever you change in that map content screen is not going to save it every time you refresh. So I'm going to hit, so if you hit F5, if your Conservation desktop kind of lags or gets slow, or if you're just antsy like me, you can hit F5, which is refresh, or you can hit the refresh button up in your browser. So I'm just going to refresh and show you that now the case, or the CLU and the PLSS layer are going to be turned off when we come back. And it loads in, and it loads back to that default view. So that's there. These buttons up on top, like I said, you can hover over those and see those. I'm going to go into those a little bit in a minute. But basically, turning on and off your layers is an important feature. You can also change how it's viewed, or change the layer organization here. Like I said, in map contents, it's not going to save from refresh to refresh. In the manual, it gives you an example of what an easement case file looks like. I'm planning to do some easement review here sometime. There's specific lesson plans that cover what all of these buttons are, what a bookmark does, the measure tool, the buffer tool, the identify button, the find button. All of these, this is your quick report and filter, unselect, the clear selected. I don't know how much I focused in on that on our trainings, but that's your clear selected features button. All of this gets described in later lessons, so I'm not going to talk about them much. But if you want to go ahead and play with those, by all means, go for it. All right, so I'm going to skip lesson plan 6 as it talks about lesson plan or easements. I've been talking for a little while here, but I'm going to go ahead and create a new case file. So we'll say that we had a brand new client come in the building. They want to do a conservation plan. They want to maybe put an equip application in. Instead of looking, they don't have any existing case files or existing folders in Toolkit. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this client search, the two little people. What that's going to do is it's going to open up and we're going to be able to search anybody that has SCIMS records already set up with FSA. So I'm going to just see if we've got anybody with last name Smith in the Moscow Service Center area. Once you hit search, it will refresh, and as you scroll down, you're then able to go and select these. If you have more, like we do in this example, like we can go over on our page over here on the right and hit those arrows. We're going to use Carol Smith. We're just going to name a new one. It opens up this information the same way with the action icon. We can either hit the link or we can come over here and click create conservation case file. Okay. So I'm going to name this ORI example, ORI trial. In our identifier, we may want to put the track number, or we may want to put something else in there, whatever you're using for the field offices. I'm going to put lesson plan 7 just because that way I know where I'm at. This toolkit root folder, if you manage multiple counties, you may get an error that says you can't find the root folder. This is all referencing toolkit. So if you can't create a case file, just change your root folder with that drop down and change it to a different one, and it should work. Oh, so my identifier has more than 12 characters. That's cool. Okay, so this is in the training site. I'll take this time to kind of mention in the training site it's data that gets wiped continuously, or not continuously, but every like 2 months they just wipe it. So go ahead and you can use a client that you currently know, play around, do whatever you want to do, and then you don't have to worry about it writing back to that actual case file. So once we have this case file, we can see that we've created it. Here's my case file name, and then the identifier shows up here. We can go and rename this case to whatever we may want. And so on and so forth. Okay. Now that we have a case file in our table of contents, this notes button comes alive. So in lesson plan 8, we go over notes and assistance notes. A lot of us aren't using assistance notes in Toolkit now because of the time it takes to check out a Toolkit folder, edit the note, and then check the Toolkit folder back in. It's just kind of it's easier just to handwrite it. This effort is kind of made to get our notes here and be a little easier to work with and use. We are going to go in this note title. So note title assisted by an assistant state and program cannot be changed once the note's been saved. It's hard to type and talk at the same time. Your program type will show up here according to your preferences if you have some of those filtered out. For now, we're just going to say you can put in your note whatever the spell check, which I just clicked on. Just click on that spell check, and then to edit or to correct, you just need to left click. Don't right click on the lines on the red line. So we can correct that. Once we have our note done, we can click save. We can add multiple notes, and it will default to that last program that was used. You can put in a new title. Use your titles good. You can use your field visits, so then you can filter them. These notes obviously aren't super awesome notes, but they're just they're in there I'm getting them for example. Let me add one more with a different date. Sorry. Okay, once we have all of our information in, we can save. You'll notice these filter buttons up here. So if we filter, we can filter out or only select those that are from the 25th of today. It will filter those. When you have a note selected, you can make an edit to it. And then scroll down and click Save. It will automatically move that prior note to a history version. It clears all filters, so it reset that other one here. puts that note in as a history, and that then can't be edited again. You'd have to edit the note, and then puts a version number over here as version number 2. Like I was saying, you can filter it by application. Did I spell it wrong? No, I didn't. But you can filter it by application, by those titles. And then when you do filter it, so I'm going to turn off, actually I'm just going to select the 18th note. When you have them filtered, then when you click report, it's only going to print or only going to put out into a PDF the notes that are filtered. So if you want to have if you want to only see the equip notes, or if you only want to see the CSP notes or CTA stuff, you can filter that out accordingly, and then have those reported for the different case files as well. And there's assistance notes. So to get back out of assistance notes, we had to hit close and go from there. So in later teleconferences, I plan to kind of go through this same kind of information, kind of just go through the manual, make sure we're hearing everything multiple times, or if anybody has, like, I didn't really understand editing practices. If you want to see that, let me know. I'll kind of dive through those ins and outs with that. Where we don't have any case PLUs tied to this plan, it's just going to hover over our servicing office general area. I'm going to bounce back to here. So goals for this week that I hope everybody can do is go into Conservation Desktop Production Environment and go and set your preferences. I apologize, I forgot to do this last part. So the favorites. Favorites is something that I covered really quick in all 3 of my sessions. If I want to save this training version, I'm going to go back to the SharePoint and so I'm going to come back down here, and I'm going to right click and copy my shortcut for the training version, just because that's where I'm working. This process is going to be exactly the same for the production version. Once you're in your training version, you want to hit the favorite button, and you're going to say add to favorites. You can obviously put it anywhere you want it to go. I would definitely name it training and production. And then I'm going to name it training 2 because I already have some there. So once you have it added, then you're going to go back to your favorites, and you'll see that it shows up here. Then I'm going to right click and click on the properties. And then I'm going to erase this URL that it's pulling in. If you don't have, you have to have the new, that link from the SharePoint on the URL in order for you to actually access these Conservation Desktop sites. You can't just hit favorites because it has to log you in through EOF. So make sure you do that. Once you're done and hit apply, then everything will be saved and ready to go for your version. So that's setting up favorites. You do exactly the same thing for production. If anybody has any issues with setting up favorites, like I said, you can come here to the SharePoint and access the version links here, or if you want to use just like your NRCS Idaho public website, you can go to the production. We have it posted in Connect. We have it posted everywhere. We have it posted in Field Tools. My personal opinion, I like having them in my favorites bar, so then I can just click on it right away, and I don't have to go search for it any other way. So set it up however you like. If you want to have it as a shortcut on your desktop, that works as well. All right, now jumping back to this SharePoint or PowerPoint. So what I want everybody to do is make sure and set up your favorites, or figure out a way that you want to use to have your access to Conservation Desktop. If you have problems with that, please let me know. I hope that everybody can go in and set up their preferences in production we already did it in training for most everybody. So in training, you should be good, but in production, things might look a little wonky if you're not, if you haven't gone in there and played with it yet. So go set your preferences there. Go ahead and look for existing files and start using those existing files, and go and create a new case file for a new client if you have one. So hopefully everybody can try and do that. So now I'm going to open up the floor. I know we don't have a ton of people on, but I do want to know what have you been doing. How does conservation look on your monitor? I know on our laptops it kind of looks a little scrunched.
Oh my God.
And then what issues have you had with desktop so far? And then what questions or issues or problems do you have? So
I was like, well,
I'll go ahead and open that up. I'm going to bounce back to the chat window and just make sure we don't have anything in chat. Issues anybody's had?
This is Pamela. I haven't had a chance to use it at all yet, but I'm just wondering, so it sounds like we cannot make maps?
Correct, yeah.
Desktop?
Put in the practice schedule, put in your practices, and then you'd have to go into Toolkit and check that folder out in Toolkit, and all of that information from NPAD that would be saved, so like your land units, practices, practice narratives,
let me go back.
the amounts and all of that would be saved, but you then would have to go back to Toolkit and check those out and print your maps that way. So
Okay, so you can do everything in desktop, go to Toolkit, and everything should be there already, and then...
yeah, you just like have to put labels and change your symbology or whatever, however you want it to look, and then go from there.
Okay. And then in desktop, are we going to be able to add other layers? There's a few layers I didn't see on the list, like
yeah. So let me in there right now. So currently in production we have. Let me actually just go to the layer preferences, and it's all under the reference tab. So we've got the 2015 aerial imagery, 2013 aerial imagery, MLRAs, C factor, nitrate priority, species of greater concern. So we do have some in there currently in the production version. In training, we didn't want to duplicate our effort.
Yeah.
We're still working on getting labels to kind of show up. Where we can't print a map, we're still just working through some of this stuff to get everything ready to go.
Okay. So if we don't see a layer in there, we need to contact one of you guys?
Yeah, let me know, and we'll work on getting those provisioned, or we'll see if the national office is going to provision. So the contract wizard wasn't able to be built into 2.2, but it is in on 2.3 on desktop. So you can do everything. You can create a conservation plan and have that ready to go in a PDF. That can be printed out of the PDF, but the maps and the contract wizard weren't able to make it into the 2.3 version. So.
Okay. So for now, like the GCI stuff, we do it all in here and then go there and do that.
Yeah. So you could go and attribute all your land units, get all that information, and it's going to talk to Toolkit and it's going to talk to ProTrax as well. So,
okay.
Yeah. Good questions. And they were full extent, so everybody can see those comments. But that's awesome. I'm glad to hear some of this information, and I hope that we start getting some more use out of desktop. And now that we have the training out of the way, but I wanted to make sure a lot of people were having questions about preferences and why things weren't looking the same as training. So I wanted to make sure and cover that. Okay. If there's anything else or anybody has any questions, let us. I am planning to talk with the desktop cadre members to kind of figure out how we want to name the case files a certain way, see if we want to standardize it for Idaho. So right now I don't know kind of where that's going to go, but there is a possibility that we could look at doing that. I would say for now, maybe standardize it for your team with your DC, see how they want to name it. And then we'll kind of work on getting that out and see what we can do in the future. So, okay, with that, I just want to say thank you for participating, and I will post this on a recording so people can watch it who missed it, and then go from there. So let me know if you have any questions. Let me, Jerry, or any of the cadre members know, and we can go forward. So thank you again.
Thanks, Ori.
Okay, thanks, Ori.